We get into our junior yearling sow division, and entry 21's going to win this class. And I just think a sow and a female that brings a lot to the table. I think she's stout in terms of her arms. She's big in terms of her bones. And I just think one that reads really pliable and soft and maternal about the center portion of her body. Entry 20 is going to go second in this class, and just a really strong, level-topped kind of a female that, yeah, we could probably pick her up in terms of her tail set, stouten her up in terms of the ground, but I still think a really high-quality, very functional female to go in second. Entry 19 is going to go third, and maybe for one, we need to fix this one as she turns and goes. She closes up at her hock and wants to close up too much at the ground, but I think just still a soft center, deep made kind of a one that still got some upheadedness about her. I like where she ties out of the front side of her shoulder. I think she ties the highest and the neatest out of there. Like we talk, we just need to stouten her up in terms of her bones, open her up in terms of her chest floor. And entry 18 is going to round out the class. And maybe for me, I'd like to see the lighting a little bit better in terms of this video. There's some times where the lighting's kind of hard to see this gilt and where she actually has her good attributes. But I think when she gets a little bit closer to the video, really soft, deep-made kind of a female. I like her balance in terms of underneath. For me, she just closes up, and I just like to see this gilt a little bit better for her to work up. Really good class. My congratulations to these exhibitors. We get into Heat 2 of the Junior Yearling Sow Division, and entry 24 is going to win this class. I think just a really, just maternal-made, deep-bodied, soggy middle kind of a sow that, one that just really gets out and flexes off both ends of her skeleton. Just really love this one's makeup and her balance underneath. She looks like to be really good in terms of her underline, in terms of her spacing. I think a really, really good female to start off this class. Entry number 22 is going to go second. One, I don't think that's really a sow that's got a blaring hole in her. I think she's a very complete kind of a female. Some things I'd like to change about her. I just want to open her up when you get right in behind her in terms of her hocks. Maybe you want to just fix this one in terms of her hip. Maybe make her a little bit leveler out through her hip. But I still think a gilt that's just really good, soft, maternal made kind of a female. Just some things that we could fix her. And I think if we do so, I think a gilt that can, or a sow, that can rival our class winner. Entry 23 is going to come next. Really big, wide-backed, bold-bladed kind of a female, and one that honestly, for me, was going to win this class until I watched her video a couple times, and maybe one that just wants to plant a little hard off of her hind two. I like to see her just kind of hit with a little bit more flexibility as she hits the grass, a little bit softer in terms of the way that she hits. Maybe a sow that just wants to plant and drive, just a little too stiff off of her hind two. But I think after that, I think a gilt that's stout, she's big, she's opened up, she's wide-backed. I really, really like this female. I think for me, I just think the two ahead of her are just a shot sounder, structured when you study them out through their hip and their hind leg. Entry 25 is going to round out the class, and just a really square, boxy, moderate made one. For me, she just gives up too much performance, I think, when you compare her back to her contemporaries, but still a gilt that offers you, just a short, moderate, boxy kind of composition. I think if you made her to a longer body, taller shoulder, just bigger outline kind of a boar, I think one that could have some future and some lucrative pigs on down the road. Really good class. Compliments to these exhibitors. Heat 3 of the Junior Yearling Sow Division, and I just think two maternal, softer made. You can just tell two sows at the top end of the class. That's going to be 28 and 29, and we're going to lead off with entry 28. It's going to win this class. Yeah, you can just tell. I think a really prominent underline, nicely balanced kind of a female that just gets out and rolls off both ends of her skeleton. Yeah, she's probably a little slower in terms of her video, but I mean, a sow that her belly's dang near dragging the ground, and one that's still got some muscle, still got some structure. 29 is going to go next, and made a lot like our class winner. Maybe one for me is not as stout when you study her in terms of her feature when compared back to her class winner. But I think one that is level out of her hip. I think one that's got some arch and curvature to the upper part of her rib. I think one that drops down. She's really deep-bodied, real maternal about the center portion of her body. just for me, just need to stouten her up to see her work her way to rival our class winner. Entry 27 is going to come next, and that's the black and white, black and red sow. Like this sow, just, from her maturity standpoint, I'd like to see her a shot wider as she turns and goes away from you. But still, I think she's tall at the point of her shoulder. I like her angle to the front shoulder and knee. Just need to make her a shot wider at her hocks as she wants to turn and go right away from you. And then entry 26 is going to round out the class, and maybe a sow for me that she's a little bit more later maturing. She's too jammed up front off both ends of her skeleton, too short in terms of her side. But still, I think a gilt that's got some good pieces. Still good in terms of her underline and her lower body balance. I think she's level backed. Just for me, just comes too short, moderate, compact in her overall makeup. My congratulations to these exhibitors. Heat for the junior yearling sow class, and I think there's some trade-offs between the top two, and I think for me, I just elect to go with just the fresher option of the two, and that's entry 31. I think one that's just a little bit more longer, more extended. I think a gilt that is really level out of her hip. Definitely just really functional when you study her off both ends of her skeleton. I think her body shape reads right. I like her balance. I like her underline. I think a really nice gilt to win. The sow, and that is going to go in second. Big, bold, until probably a little bit more mature sow when you compare her back to her class winner. I mean, this sow is opened up. She's big back. She's wide back. I think she's smooth enough in terms of her shoulder. Maybe just like to see her get out and just go with the more lengthy kind of a stride. Maybe like to pick her up in terms of her tail set for her to move any higher. Entry 33 is going to go third, and I think she follows the one in second in terms of type and kind, and she's a really long-made kind of a sow, long about and extended about her head and neck. I think her head or her neck ties higher out of the top side of her shoulder. She's a little leveler out through her hip and her hind leg. Just need to stouten her up in terms of her ankle for her to rival her contemporaries up front. We're going to round out the class with entry 32. Maybe one for me, I just like to see her kind of closer to the video. Like to bring her up in terms of her pin set. Like to open her up right there at the base of her forerib. Really good class. My compliments to these exhibitors. Well, we study champion junior yearling sow, and I think for me, entry 24 is going to be our winner. I just like this one's proportionality. I think she's sound off both ends of her skeleton, just really big and broody and maternal in the center portion of her body. I think for me, this gilt needs to be the logical winner. Entry 31 is going to be reserve, and just, we talk about the fresher option in class. I think she's fresher. I think when you study her in terms of her back and her symmetry and her silhouette from the side, I think she's still got plenty enough muscle. Maybe when you compare her back to our champion, maybe just need to stouten her up in terms of her bone work. But still, I think a really, really nice sow to be reserved. And then we're going to grab the second out of that class, and that's going to be entry number 30. She's going to be our third overall. Really stout, maybe more an older kind of a female. Like I said, really stout, opened up, big backed. For me, just need to freshen her up in terms of her condition. My compliments to these exhibitors.